No salary cap makes any sense because this is India, dude.
Who decides that? If you can give us the inside scoop.
If you're fixated on a player, you're dead.
But I think if 8 people are involved, I don't know how this process works.
8 people are not involved. I mean, normally 3 or 4 involved and the rest are, there because it's nice to be on a table and sitting on there. But
and this 5-star food is always good.
Within 5 minutes, I got 400 messages on my phone.
It sounds like my career.
No, it just sounds like a relationship gone
wrong.
It's in the air. It's a 6.
Yep, it's time for Century of Stories Cricket. We've got Joy Bhattacharjya with us, a man who knows everything about cricket, but he's going to talk mostly about IPL auctions in this episode. So I'm going to start with sold. I just love saying that.
What's the price?
For you, 64 million USD. We can't imagine how it's galloped, right? Before we start and give it perspective, it's galloped to what were the figures, the big figures in 2007-8?
So in 2008, when the auction started, the total purse was 5 million.
Yeah.
But remember, at that point in time, 5 million was also predicated that the rupee cost was fixed at 40. So no matter what happened, you'd pay 20 crore Indian rupees.
So if it fluctuated, it didn't matter. It remained 40.
40 was fixed.
You can't do that with the market. I'm not happy with this kind of thinking.
But that's what it was for the first 3 years. And it's incredible. I mean, it's grown by more than 5 times now.
By the way, the rupee is over 80. But anything can happen in economics as well as cricket. So let's go back to 2008. Joy himself was in charge of the Kolkata Knight Riders and one of the founding fathers of this process, which is sometimes complicated and sometimes is far more interesting than the cricket as well. So let's go right back to the top, 2008. Tell us what happened. Just set it up for us.
So first, what happens? How does the auction happen? The auction happens because by that time, already he knows Lalit Modi, Andrew Wildblood, who's with IMG, who's helping Lalit Modi set this up with the BCCI, realizes that if you have a situation where people are going to be bought from outside, then you can never control how much money they're actually paying. So they could be saying, I'm going to pay. So there's no salary cap makes any sense because this is India, dude.
How does it work in the NBA?
In the NBA, what happens is you have a different way of controlling it. Firstly, there's not that much money outside. Okay, and there it's dependent on draft picks of fresh talent coming in. Here what the situation was is you're going to buy cricketers. Okay, now if you have a situation where say an Ambani can go and buy every cricketer, and even if you put a price cap, what is it to stop any team from saying I'm paying him 10 rupees when they're actually paying him 30 rupees? That was where the auction started, and what it meant was that there was a level playing field for everyone because it didn't matter what money you could give outside. At this point in time, you're only going to buy the players with the purse you have.
Right.
And I think that made a huge difference. So I remember that first auction, and I remember the night before sitting with Shaurav and Shahrukh at Shahrukh's house because there was very little time between the auction and the actual preparation. And then Shoaib Akhtar visiting us at 1:30.
Can you do Shoaib's accent?
No, I can't.
Then that's not fun for me.
Can you do Shoaib's accent?
Oh, I can try.
I once asked him where the accent was from.
Yeah, Scotland.
He said Ireland to me.
Ireland, okay, sorry.
And
when he played under 16 when he was very young or whatever.
Apparently it was because he was on a plane flight from...
that's too much. Joy, that's a spin unnecessary. Again, let's get back to our subject. So just give us a little, because nobody understands how it works. Now it's a little more professional in a sense. You go to Shahrukh's house, you all are the management camp.
Yeah. So
and what are you discussing?
What actually happened was, the reason I was involved was, many years back I'd done this show called Super Selector, which was also about, getting players together.
Right.
And this auction is exactly the same, except that you and I can't buy the same player.
Right.
So I got 2 profs from ISI and worked with them to create a software which will maximize it. So if you tell me this player's potential is 200, I'll manage to buy the best players for you at that price. And so with that software, this friend of mine called Jeet, we got together and we went to Shahrukh, and Shahrukh liked it, and Lalit introduced us to Shahrukh, in fact.
Yeah.
And that's how we sort of got ready for the first auction. And it was fascinating.
So, but you have a pool of players in your mind or not? The night before.
Of course, you have a pool of players in your mind, but what you have to do is you've got to be
correlated
flexible.
To the maths.
Yeah, you've got to be flexible. So the main thing about an auction is that you cannot be fixated on a player, be fixated on a position. If you're fixated on a player, you're dead. I'll give you an example. I think there's a player called Dan Christian who went once for about $800,000, okay, because 2 guys wanted the same kind of player. A guy who could bat at 6 and 7 and can bowl a bit, especially in the death overs. And both guys had that one name written out there. So they kept going up, 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 up. The next year, the same player was released and went for 100,000. What's the problem? The problem was they didn't say number 6 or 7 batter all-rounder who can also bowl in the death. What they said was Dan Christian. So that's the one thing about auctions. If you've got to play an auction properly, you've got to decide on a position rather than a player. The only time that rule changes is when you have a player who's just different, role changing. So like Bumrah, Lasith Malinga, Chris Gale, they don't come into that because they're just so
like
different.
Super freaks.
They're
freaks have another level.
And you say that, okay, I'll pay anything for this.
So otherwise, we're looking at when you guys sit down, at least initially, your whole thing is opener 1, 2, 3, 4, middle order, late flourish, finisher.
So I'll give you a very good example of how auction strategy works. So suppose 2011, we've gone in. Firstly, we've decided to part with Sourav Ganguly. And that itself was fascinating.
Who decides that? If you can give us the inside scoop.
So all of us decided. So one thing is...
Oh, but that's like diplomatic answer.
Wait. Shah Rukh first distanced himself. Because he said that, look, this is a professional team, you guys run it professionally. If you want Sourav, you keep Sourav. If you don't want, it's your call.
So Raju ban gaya gentleman.
Raju ban gaya gentleman. So it was basically the Dab Bottom was a coach, I was there, Venki Mysore, CEO was there.
Put it on the foreigner.
And there was and there was Jeet. The best part of it is the only 2 Bengalis on that table were Jeet Banerjee and myself.
8 to Brutus.
When Sourav Ganguly was not bid for, we didn't retain him, he was not bid for. Within 5 minutes, I got 400 messages on my phone. Because there was somebody who said, put out on all groups saying, this is a Bengali who has betrayed our Bengali icon, Sourav Ganguly. Please tell him what you think of him. So within 5 minutes, I got about 400.
What is the nicest thing that you heard on that? really bad stuff?
So it reached a stage where I had to actually I had to turn around and tell my dad that perhaps you should take down his address board from our house in Salt Lake. To be honest with you, see, that's what auction strategy is all about. So you haven't taken a Sourav. What did we tell ourselves? We said we wanted an Indian player who's going to play for India and for us for the next 6-7 years.
Right.
So we zeroed in saying that Gautam Gambhir is the man. Okay. Now the question...
But it's like for like in a sense, right? This left-handed bat, top of the order. It's almost like for like.
Yeah. And Gautam Gambhir, and we said that, okay, Gautam Gambhir, Rohit Sharma, that was our consideration set. Okay. We said we want 2 solid Indian batters. So if you go by that, you'll notice actually Kochi had decided they wanted Gautam Gambhir. For an $8 million purse, they decided they wanted Gautam Gambhir. But we just kept bidding. And when we took Gautam Gambhir, we paid $2.4 million for him. And that's the point where Kochi stepped back. Then we took Yusuf Pathan for 2.1. So that made 4.5. And then we took Jacques Kallis for 1.1.
Arguably the greatest all-rounder since Sobers.
But 3 guys you've taken at 5.6 and you've just got about 2.4 left in the auction.
So is this good or bad strategy?
So the idea is that you buy the players you really want to. Now, what happens after that? We say international fast bowler. Our budget is 300,000. The first bowler among these 6, say in our consideration set, there's Durknan, there's Brett Lee, 3 other bowlers. The first bowler we got for 300,000 was Brett Lee. We took him. International batter. Okay, so we say that Owen Morgan, Kumar Sangakkara, David Hussey, all these are international batters who bat in the middle order. The first guy we got the price we wanted. Okay, 300,000, good enough price for him. We took Owen Morgan. So what you do is, because we didn't have a specific player, but we said these are the 5 bowlers. For example, similarly in 2014, we had a list of bowlers saying that, okay, these are about 5 bowlers. Okay, there's Vinay Kumar, there's Umesh Yadav, there's Mohammad Shami, all these guys. Whoever you get at a particular price, you take. Because he is not the difference-making player. The difference-making player for me is Sunil Narine.
It's not a point where you're looking at the purse and thinking, I have only so much budget. I thought that was a very simple way of doing it. This is my budget. Every time I'm going out to bat for a player, this is my budget and that's it. Because there's a maths involved.
That's what you have to do. You have to say, this is my budget. Not for this player. For a player of this type.
Oh, so you back off when that budget is exceeded, but you're still shopping for the same type.
You're still shopping for the same type.
What's the guarantee you'll get another guy?
Because you've already said to yourself that, okay, international batters in the middle order. There's Kumar Sangakkara, there's Mahela Jayawardene, there's David Hussey, There's Cameron White. All these players are roughly in that same bracket. You pick the one you want to.
IDFC first fact. When Gujarat picked Ishant Sharma in the auctions ahead of the 2025 season, it made the Delhi Pacer the only player to have been picked by a team in the league's inaugural auction, as well as the latest one held almost 18 years apart. Okay, now how do you guys decide? Ultimately, when we see the auction as a viewer, you see 6-7 people talking. How do you decide? But it seems a little far too democratic for a decision to be made quickly.
See, all of them differ from team to team to team. Okay. So Kolkata, in the early days when we picked up Sunil Aryan, all these, a huge part of the auction was, the second auction was Gautam Gambhir. Because remember, there are two types of auctions, the big auctions and mini auctions.
Right.
And mini auctions are actually the place where a lot of people make a lot of money because desperate teams come and they have a lot of money and 2-3 places to fill, so you get a lot of money. But the big auctions, every team has its own strategy. So when Vijay Mallya sits on a table, no matter what Anil Kumble or whoever else was advising at that time, it's Vijay Mallya's final decision.
Really?
Yeah.
In spite of not being, knows his cricket and all that, but you're sitting with people whose cricket acumen is another level.
Yeah, but look, he was the kind of person who imposes will on the team. You have the Punjab team, they've always, lots of opinions coming in the Punjab team. There are lots of people who have a coherent, strategy. So team to team to team, it varies.
Kolkata?
See, Kolkata had one advantage. The great advantage Kolkata had, which it now has, which Gujarat has now, is Kolkata in those years, 2011, 2014, was completely given to the management. So you could decide beforehand. There was no owner turning around in the end and saying, no, I want to change
Shah Rukh
this.
was hands off.
Shah Rukh was hands off. Because I remember Shah Rukh himself also realized in 2009 when we had an auction and Kolkata bid for just one player, Mashraf Murtaza. Okay.
Oh,
and we wanted him.
Bangladeshi
Mashraf Murtaza, we start bidding. And it turned out that Punjab also wanted the player. And after a while, the bid just from 125 to 150 is what we thought we'd pay. It went up to 200, 300, 400. And then it became an ego battle. And then, there's Shah Rukh Khan, there's Ness Wadia. These are people who they're not used to hearing no for an answer that, I'm not going to get it.
We're like two Delhi boys in a fight, is it?
So it went to 600. And I think that's the point after which, we realized that...
So without being disrespectful to Murtaza, you're saying that the price doesn't warrant the player sometimes.
Sometimes what happens is ego takes over and prices don't matter. And see, auctions are strange beasts because an auction, no matter how much you plan, the dynamics can totally change as it happens. And I'll give you the best example is a chap called Pawan Negi.
Yeah.
Okay, Pawan Negi has played for India 2-3 matches. Pawan Negi
he got a big purse initially,
2016, he had a great season. Okay? 2016, Pawan Negi had a good season why? Because, in fact, 2014, Pawan Negi was a net bowler for Kolkata because, Vijay Dahiya and Gautam Gambhir knew him from Delhi, so they bought him over. After that, he goes, he signs, he plays for Chennai, spinning conditions, plays well, late middle order. Delhi desperately need a player like that. Now, Pawan Negi is actually not supposed to come up in the auction. Pawan Negi is being paid 20 lakhs playing for Chennai, but Chennai get banned. So this guy who's getting paid 20 lakhs no longer has a team, so he's thrown back into the auction. Delhi is desperate to get a player. They pay 8.4 crores for the same player.
But based on what? Although they obviously had some talent, who decides that suddenly a net bowler is good enough to be one of your marquee players?
After net bowler, he's played for CSK. He's done okay.
Yeah.
But he's done okay firstly in CSK conditions where it helps spin. And he's also got a captain like Dhoni who's looking after him, who knows exactly
and he's a very good captain to spinners.
Yeah, and he knows exactly what he can get out of Negi. Now the same guy, and he's 20 lakhs, there's no pressure on him. Well played, beta. Now he's picked up, given 8.4 crore by Delhi. That pressure for a lot of guys is very, very difficult to take. So after that, Pawan Negi has a nightmare season, gets one wicket, scores about 60-70 runs and immediately gets released in the auction again. But for that 1 year, he makes 8.4 crores.
And today he's one of the richest men in India, thanks to the IPL, if you invest wisely. But speaking of some of the big stars and one of the great bowlers of our generation, Mitchell Starc, 24-odd crores last season. But perhaps in the final he did perform and there were some moments. But you think it puts a lot of pressure on them?
It does. It does. Even for a player like Starc. I have seen and not everybody is capable of handling the pressure. So when you come in with a huge price tag, it's like a target on your back. And to be able to walk with that pressure and be able to do well is what top players are all about. I mean, even for Starc, and Starc Stark is not the strongest mentally in the Australian team. They call him this gentle giant. So it's, all the other guys rally around him. So when he gets it going, he got it going. But till then, even for a seasoned international player who's been a player of a tournament in a World Cup,
No, one of the best bowlers of his generation. You can't deny that. Yeah.
Feels that pressure. And that's what is, IPL does that to you. And the other thing is that in the same team, you have players. One of the things that an IPL auction does, is you take somebody like a Brendan McCullum.
Yeah.
Brendan McCullum, since the age of 6 or 7 when he started playing cricket, has never sat in his life.
Meaning?
He's never sat outside watching a team not made the 11 in a match. Now suddenly you
fading career and only 4 allowed and all that.
Yeah. No, not fading career, 4 allowed.
Yeah.
So what happens? You have a situation where the combination of the team does not allow you to play an international keeper.
Right.
So Brendan McCullum may be the greatest, but at that point in time, KKR needs to play Narayan, they need to play Shakib, they need to play Callis, they need to play another fast bowler because
Andre Russell in at that point.
Yeah, no, Russell comes later.
Okay.
But that's the point, that is the other one thing in an auction, that you often get resources that you can't use.
And this is the guy who set up the IPL with that 158. 157, 158.
158, 73 balls. Yeah.
Which, honestly, that was a poetic start to the entire IPL.
Yeah,
it really helped, push the whole thing along.
That changed the entire IPL. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that you see in auctions, that the auction also decides the mood of a team, which way a team is going. Small auctions, you'll see one very interesting thing. This year, the IPL made a rule. Why do you think Jofra Archer was in the auction this year? Jofra Archer may not be fit. But what the IPL discovered is a lot of foreign players are now gaming the IPL auctions. What they do is, they'll never go
test the waters.
No, they'll never go to the IPL in a main auction year. So this year was a main auction year, big auction, okay, where every 3 years there's a big auction. Because in a big auction, you don't get that much money because a lot of players have to be bought. But if you go in a small auction, like say Stark went last year, what happens is, limited amount of money, you need just 1 or 2 players.
So you push all your money on that one guy.
Players get disproportionate amounts of money. Yeah. So it happened with him, it happened with Andrew Flintoff.
So most star players must be trying this angle, right?
So they tried this angle. Now the BCCI said you have to, if you sign, you sign for 3. You have to sign for 3 years. Yeah. So after that you get injured and you have a proper certificate, you don't play, that's a different matter. But you have to commit to play for the auction for 3 years. You can't come in the year where you think, okay, not too much talent out here, let me just sneak in and make some money.
And shouldn't there be a concept of auction replay like we used to have in the old days? But I've seen that. This is not really being funny here. I've seen them sort of put their hands up sometimes and then, not sure. And then just as the guys hit the hammer the third time, sort of put their hand up again. There's a little bit of the process being here and there, in the early years especially.
No, process is all, lots of stuff happens in auctions. People go up, people put their hand up. Like there's one situation I remember that... it was a very interesting situation because you had a situation where Mohammad Kaif's name was taken up, and I think it was 2000. It was one of the big auctions, 11 or 14, and Vijay Mallya was there. And at that point in time, it was 11 because what happened was you had to buy domestic players for a fixed price later. Okay. Right. So Anil Kumble was in charge, I think, and he had all his domestic players fixed up. So he had to have a budget of some 300,000-400,000 left for his domestic players, which had to be left when the auction was over. And at that point in time, Mohammad Kaif's name came up as being bought back. He was unsold in the first time. He was bought back into the auction. Because I think Sahara wanted to bid for him and, UP team, they wanted to, though it was from Pune.
Homeboy, huh?
Yeah. Sahara puts in a bid and everyone expects that Mohammad Kaif will be bought at that price. And suddenly Vijay Mallya thinks this is a great idea and he puts in another bid. And then they now feel, what is it? We are supposed to get Kaif, so they bid. So a player who's not been bid at all, who has to be bought back in the auction, suddenly $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 is spent on him. And looking on in horror now is Anil Kumble because he has a fixed budget to buy each and every one of his players. So the moment...
And he's been overruled.
Moment that goes out, that money goes out, he's stuck because that means there are at least 2-3 domestic players that he wanted to buy.
Gone.
Who can't buy.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with auction dynamics because, see, for Vijay Mallya, 60-70 lakhs made no difference. He's just putting his hand up and he's having fun. But for a guy who has a fixed purse, the actual management of the team, they're wondering, how are we going to recover from this?
They've done this whole strategy and the strategy's gone out of the place.
It's just gone out. Yeah. So that's what can happen. In an auction, an owner can just put up his hand and change everything.
What is the funny story where Punjab bid for the wrong player? and sort of got him. And then, of course, turned out to be a good player in the end, and things like that happen as well. And then they can't return it.
It was Shashank Singh, and again, they sort of bid for him. Then they said they had the wrong player. Then they turned down and they said that, no, it is the right player.
Yeah.
And, it finally sorted
he
out.
had a good season, or second half of the season at least, and did well, so it was all good. But these things happen because I don't want to point fingers at people, but like you mentioned, there are a lot of people involved in the whole process who are not cricket people. In that sense.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are there. Then every auction table, you will see at least 2-3 people sitting out there who are sitting there.
Yeah.
Because you sit at an auction table and you're meant to look good and who are absolutely no part in the decision making. And I think that's what it's also become. It's become a showpiece for being there and, showing your face. The truth of it is that more than 3 or 4 people cannot get together and take decisions on a table.
I would think, honestly, the less, the better, so that it's more efficient, and the strategy should be completely... I know what you're saying all the time about trying to get the player position rather than the player, which is an important point. But I think if 8 people are involved, I don't know how this process
8 people
works.
are not involved. I mean, normally 3 or 4 are involved, and the rest are, there because it's nice to be on a table and sitting out there. But
and it's 5-star food is always
But
good.
mind you, if you're doing all this, you get heated conversations later, which are very interesting. Like
I would love to hear that. You can see that happening. But they put their hands over their ears like sledging in cricket.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you go? Don't go any further. Don't go any further. A lot of that happens. And I remember early on, we used to have an advantage because Jeet Banerjee, who used to sit in the KKR table, he comes from an auction background. His mother owns an art gallery.
Right.
So he's used to being in art auctions. Now, nobody else in the other tables was used to auctions. So what Jeet would do, which now everyone copies, in the beginning was, whenever he had a player who we thought, we said that, we can go up to 200,000 with this player.
You never initially bid.
Firstly, he'll not initially bid, so he'll come in very late.
Yeah.
Okay. And he'll come in, psychologically, it throws other people off. And he's saying, I'm going to get it, and this guy's coming. The second is, even though we have a limited purse for a player, he'd go very fast. So 15,000, 20,000, 25,000. And then the guy thinks, this guy, there's no point bidding against him because he's
set.
He's set, he's going to get this guy. So they let go. Now, after 2013-14, people have started following this strategy. So now everyone sees it, and I say it all started.
Also, what you mentioned about having a poker face, where they don't show the fact that they're interested or not interested.
Yeah.
It's a big name, small name, whatever. They just seem to have no reaction, waiting, biding their time, and then at the right time putting your hand up.
Yeah, and a lot of guys will wait. Nobody wants to be the first bidder.
guy. Yeah.
Nobody wants to be the first bidder, which is why suddenly you see Rohit Sharma's name come in and nobody's bidding. Everyone's waiting that right at that moment they're going to do it.
Let's go back to the first auction. There was also this under 19 dynamic involved.
The first year there was one auction and there was one draft because the entire under 19 team was taken the next day in a draft which was not held with the main auction. And that had a crazy story because Delhi boy, the captain of Delhi's Delhi the team, the Delhi team, Virat Kohli is the captain of the India under 19 team, West Delhi boy, sure shot. And there was a draft of who could pick which players. So 8 teams, you had totally 16 players to pick. And there was a draw of lots. So unfortunately, Kolkata got 8 and 9, which is perhaps the worst in the sense that we got only the 8th best pick. The first pick went to Delhi. The second pick went to RCB. So 1st and 16th was Delhi. 2nd and 15th was RCB. And the first pick, everyone, the moment they got that, everyone said, Virat, Delhi boy, they couldn't take him. And they go and take Pradeep Sangwan. Now, mind you, if you look back at it, Amrit Mathur is a good friend of mine who was there in the Delhi table. Look at the Delhi team at that time. There's Gambhir, there's Sehwag, there's Dinesh Karthik. 3 solid Indian bats. They played for Manoj Tiwari. 4. They have Dilshan.
Where do you put Virat?
You have Dilshan. You have a fantastic team. They had an absolutely crack. You have AB de Villiers. You have a crack batting unit. So Virat actually doesn't fit in. The moment they take that, Malia knows nothing, but he knows Virat is the under-19 captain, he takes him. And on that unlikely circumstance, probably the longest partnership in the IPL started with that unlikely
and
circumstance.
possibly a partnership which will stay for the next year or two until he calls it quits. Doesn't look like he's going to move from RCB.
No, it doesn't look like he's going to. Not right now.
Do they give you feelers? Do the cricketers give you feelers behind the scenes? Ki mujhe pasand nahi yahan pe, acha nahi lagta yahan pe.
I have got at least 5 feelers, 5-6 players who have given feelers saying that, you bid for me, I want to get out of my current team.
Wow.
From everything from for the WhatsApp messages to Facebook messages. And it's very interesting because that's one. Also, I've got once a feeler from a coach who's saying that, I said, why do you want to leave? Because I knew the place where he was staying played him at least double the money we could afford to pay him. He said, I can't do such long meetings anymore. So that team used to have 3-hour meetings. I can't do them anymore.
Foreign coach?
Foreign coach.
Names you won't mention. Joy's biography will tell all.
Autobiography. Nobody will write a biography.
Autobiography. Stop correcting me, Baba. I'm just old now. But before we wind up, Rajasthan Royals has a very romantic sort of tale to it.
Look, Manoj Badali has spoken about it. And I think it's not just Manoj Badali. In those days, early days, there was a gentleman called Ravi Krishnan who used to head IMG before that.
Yeah.
And Ravi Krishnan was very close to Warney. And they basically...
He grew up in Australia.
He grew up in Australia. Yeah. And there was, I think, the schoolboy cricketers together for a while.
They were. Oh, at least they were classmates.
They were classmates, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Ravi...
I don't want to say that because everybody says, I played with Sachin, I played with Shane. We don't know for a fact. Yeah.
So, exactly. So, under those circumstances, they really decided to go for Warne. And remember, that first year, there's one of the interesting things that nobody knows about. All the international players who came, their money was fixed. So Warne was told that even if the bid does not go up to $400,000, he will be paid $400,000 by the BCCI. Similarly, Gilchrist was told, because in those days, the first year, they were very scared that no international cricketer would come. In fact, they went and asked Brian Lara.
Yeah, he didn't.
And Brian Lara turned around and said, I want to be guaranteed $1 million. And they didn't want to guarantee him. Because if the other guys are going for $400,000, who's Lara to get $1 million? So, but that was the thing. So those prices were fixed. And the thing about it is that Rajasthan strategy, some of it, Manoj Badale talks about. There are other things he doesn't. One of the things is that Zubin Barucha, who's
technical director, the role you had.
He got a call from an old friend of mine called Arun Lal, who turned around and said, whatever you do, just pick up that one guy, Yusuf Pathan. He's got something in him. And on those one call things in those early days, in the days before you had so much data, in the days before you didn't have 30 scouts around, Yusuf Pathan went and joined. And after that season, of course.
Yeah, the great year.
So that's what I'm saying. The part of it was a lot of strategy that, Rajasthan did. When strategy was good and Warne coming in really changed the team.
But talk about captaincy. In another episode, we talk about Shane Warne not getting captaincy and probably should have. But here he's captain of a country where half the people don't understand his language, etc. And he was fantastic.
He was fantastic. And not only that, the way, again, Ravindra Jadeja owes him his career. Really? He called Ravindra Jadeja rock star, pushed his fielding, told him he was an underrated bat, made him bat. All those things Warne did, and I think that's what it happened. One of the great things was, if you remember, that team, Unkaif was a senior most Indian cricketer.
Yeah.
So it was Warne's dominion. Okay, Yusuf Pathan is this untried guy who's just played an ICC final. So he could do whatever he wanted to do with this team. And I think he really enjoyed himself.
There's a beautiful story about Swapnil Asnotkar, if I remember the name correctly. He played 2 or 3 seasons. Very good season, the first one. And Warne goes to his house in Goa to meet the parents and all that, to chat with them, etc. And obviously not from very wealthy background or whatever. So you have this Aussie larrikin guy completely at home in a very sort of lower middle class Goan setting, and charmed everybody.
Remember, for Warne, this was the captaincy that he never got for Australia. It was a slap in the face. And when they played KKR, he was especially good because he's playing against John Buchanan, somebody who he didn't exactly get on eye to eye.
He's never understood why he's here.
No.
What is the famous line about the coach?
Yeah, the only thing you need for a coach is to go to the hotel and come back to the stadium.
All right, so that was the IPL auctions. Is there anything else we've not touched upon? So much more we could talk about. The processes, the intrigue, the fighting, the infighting, the I told you so's, which probably would happen after. Without names, you'll never give us names. Were there regrets when an auction is over, and how does the team, what happens between the strategists?
See, I'll tell you one thing. The most interesting thing is, especially nowadays, every team, when they finish an auction, go and celebrate and say, wow, what a team we have. Very few teams turn around and say, we didn't get the team we wanted.
Such batao. Tell the truth. Yeah.
But there are occasional, there are teams. I know, for example, Mumbai really regretted letting go of Sunil Narayan in 2012 to us.
Yeah.
It reached over 700,000. And at that point in time, they were still unsure. And had they bid one more, perhaps we would have let it go. But, that was a big one. I think Mumbai regretted not getting Sunil Narayan. There are plenty such small ones, and especially small players who get picked up and they suddenly do well. For example, Shreyas Iyer, the price I think Kolkata got him for the last time was absolutely fantastic. He went for a very good price. And I think Delhi would have regretted losing somebody like that at that price.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes the price that you get one year and the price you get the next year, again, without taking names and embarrassing people, is ridiculous. Because you mentioned one or two of these before as well. They do really huge amounts, and then the leveling factor here, you just nothing the next year.
So there's a great story is Jaydev Unadkat. Jaydev Unadkat goes
for 12 or something.
11, I think 11, more than 11, okay, to Rajasthan Royals. They release him, okay, after that season. Then they buy him back again for 8. Okay. So you've released him, he's not been successful for you or whatever. Then you buy him back for 8. Then again you release him. Then 2 years back, again you buy him back for I think 3 or 4, you buy him back again.
Wow.
So like
it sounds like my career.
It sounds
every year.
No, it just sounds like a relationship gone
wrong. He can't leave his wife.
The other thing that in IPL auctions, there's always one thing that you've always got to watch in IPL auctions is two people I used to always watch out for. One was Aaron Finch, and one was of course Parthiv Patel, because Aaron Finch would move from team to team to team, and I think he was collecting jerseys. It's one of those things that I want to have.
But as a white ball player outside the IPL, he was very successful.
That's the point. Everybody would look at him. There's this word, unfortunately, Rohit used to get in the beginning of his career in cricket was potential. And Aaron Finch was not just potential, he was performance everywhere else.
International performance.
Pick him up and bring him here. And he used to forget out. And the other
Parthiv?
was... And Parthiv was just such a useful cricketer. Every time they wrote the obituary that, Parthiv can't play cricket, he'd go and win another title with another team. So he played well for Chennai, played for Mumbai. He's
RCB.
Played for RCB. He's played for 6 teams. He's done well for all of them. And everybody would say, we don't need Parthiv. Somewhere Parthiv would be picked. Parthiv would make it to the 11 and Parthiv would do
Maybe he's one of those lucky players. You should have him because for sure you're going to do well.
That was Karan Sharma.
I
think 3 years in a... Yeah, Karan Sharma is a leggy. 3 years in a row, he just happened to be on the team that won the IPL. So after a while, people said, next time you have to bid for Karan Sharma.
Just keep him in the jersey. That's all we need to do. All right. Well, last question as we end this little episode, and that is, if you were in the running, how much would you get? What would be the bid?
I would be one of those where the auctioneer turns around and says, okay, no bids for him, closed.
And which team would you choose if you were to choose as a player?
Kolkata Knight Riders. There's only one team to play for.
Is it still? After never thought maybe I should go to Mumbai or one of the other teams?
Purple and gold. It looks well. It suits my white hair.
These Cal boys, you can't mess with them. They're Cal for life, no matter what you say. What do you think? Which team can I go for?
You've got that image. I think you're RCB. You're a glamour boy. You are.
Poor Vijay Mallya was knocked off from there. Where's the glamour boy now?
Look at one thing. The bar will always be full in the evenings. That's one thing you never.
We not lose. We're not taking the Mickey out of RCB. Okay, let's be honest here. All right, that's it. Thanks, Joy. That's fantastic. As we leave, guess how much money he was paid for every season of IPL? It's on the board. No, it's not. We don't know. Nobody knows the real figures,
No, at least in the auction we know.
Everyone loves a good discount, especially me. But more often than not, the lucrative offers which we come across are scams with fake websites which seem very real. And that's why it's crucial to never click on such malicious links which are not sent by verified personnel or from the official website. Never forget to verify these links by cross-checking them on the official websites. To make sure you never fall for these frauds, avoid picking up calls of suspicious contacts. Please don't click links or share personal financial info via call, via SMS or email.